Let's talk about some cards that have decreased in price. Starting with Path to Exile, this is a 1 white instant where we can exile a creature, and the controller gets to put a basic land from their library onto the battlefield tapped. This used to be a $10 card, and I know that because I traded for it when it was worth $10. Now it's going for $1.88. This is TCG pricing. If you'd like to buy any of these cards, you can use the link down below and help support the channel at no additional cost to you. Moving on, we have Smothering Tithe. This used to be a $40 card. I was able to trade this in for that amount. When it was worth that much, I probably got 30 to 50% of that. So when an opponent draws a card, they may pay 2. If they don't, you get a treasure token. This is a great enchantment. If you don't remove it, it gets out of hand very quickly. Teferi's Protection. This was a $40 card. Now we're looking at $17 for the non-foil version. If you've been looking to pick it up, we're seeing that 50% price reduction, so now may be a great time to do so. Moving on to blue, we have Curiosity Crafter. This was a $13 card. Now we're looking at $2.87 for this one. Great for token decks. We're able to draw a huge amount of cards. It's a Bident of Thassa for specifically creature tokens that are dealing combat damage. And we also have no max hand size on top of that, so even if you're not a token deck, if you're looking for just that max hand size, this could be an option. Or if you can take advantage of a 3/3 flyer. Next is Mole Drifter. Used to be a $2 card, I'm not joking, because it's that good. Going for 21 cents right now. For 5 mana, we get a 2/2 flyer that enters the battlefield, we get to draw 2. Or we can pay 3 mana for this to enter the battlefield, we draw 2 cards, and then we have to sacrifice it. So if we're able to take advantage of ETBs and sacrificing it, paying that 3 for the evoke cost is going to be the way to go. The last blue card is Mystic Remora. This has seen a little bit of a price reduction, maybe 20%. It was going for around $12 to $10. Really great if your opponents are casting non-creature spells all the time, because they're most likely not going to pay 4 mana for you not to draw a card. The only downside is you're paying 1 cumulative upkeep, so the first time you cast it, you get it for that 1 blue. The next upkeep, you have to pay 1 mana, and it keeps adding on. Every upkeep, you have this on the battlefield. Moving on to black, we have Blood Artist. This used to be a $4 or $5 card, now going for $1.61. This is going to be great for aristocrat decks when you want all of your creatures to be dying. This is the card that you should be going for. Next card we're talking about is Elder Brain. Pretty sure when this was spoiled or released, this was going for about $6. Now it's for 50 cents. So if you're into playing your opponent's spells, this is going to be a great one for you. And while it does cost 7 mana, it's a 6/6 with Menace, so it could swing in for some potential damage. And remember, whenever it attacks, we get that effect. So even if they decide to block and kill this thing, we're going to get this card's ability off. Witch of the Moors. This was a $15 card, and I know that because I was looking to grab a copy, but never did because it was pretty expensive. But now it's going for $3. So if you're a life gain deck, that can take advantage of this card because our opponents are going to have to sack a creature, and we get 1 creature from our graveyard to our hand. It's also a 4/4 with Death Touch. It's a really sweet card in my opinion. If it was in the $1 range, this would be probably maybe the best pickup in the whole list. But let's move on to red. We have Blasphemous Act. I can't really remember the price it was going for, but I'm pretty sure it was anywhere from $2 to $3. So now we're looking at a $1.30 price tag for this. It costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield, and that includes ours or our opponents. We can end up casting this for 1 red and dealing 13 damage to each creature. Amazing board wipe right here. Chaos Warp. We can target any permanent, and that player has to shuffle in their library. And whatever's on top, after they shuffle their library, they put that on the battlefield if it's a permanent. This is always a great one to play in Commander. If you love Chaos, hence Chaos in the name, this is a great removal spell because it targets anything on the battlefield. Goldspan Dragon. Now we're seeing about a 25% price decrease. It was going for around $20. If you love treasure tokens, this is probably the one you're looking for, because now our treasures have tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 2 mana of any 1 color, instead of the typical 1 mana. Next is a commander I'm really trying to build. I just need time to buy the cards, and at the right price, we have Kazul, Tyrant of the Cliffs. This was a $6 card, and now going for 18 cents due to the New Capenna reprint. If you're looking to build this or add this to any of your decks, now would be a great time to pick it up now that it's less than a quarter. Moving on to green, we have Beast Whisperer. Whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Amazing creature right here. Going for $170, typically around the $2 to $3 range, so not much of a price decrease, but still we're seeing lower trend in that price, so there's a bit of saving for you. Bloom Tender, going for $8.25. I remember when this was a $50, or maybe it was even $40. It was It was a pretty high dollar card, $40 to $50. For 2 mana, we get a 1/1 Elf Druid. We tap it for each color among permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. Great for a 5-color deck because that has the most colors. So if you're looking for this, it's going for $8. Not sure when we'll see another reprint since I got one this year. Bramble Sovereign, I am very surprised to see it at this price. It was I'd say $18 to $20 card. If you have a lot of non-token creatures and you want copies of them, you just gotta pay 2 mana, and you make a copy of that creature when it enters the battlefield. Great stuff right here. Ignoble Hierarch. I remember when this was a $20 card, I traded this for a fetch land when they first came out. For 1 green, we get a 0/1 Goblin Shaman that's exalted, and we can tap it for black, red, or green. This is a great mana dork for the Jund commander decks. Next is Krosan Grip. This used to be a $2 card. It's an instant that has split second, so that means nobody's able to respond to this, and we're able to destroy an artifact or enchantment, going for 37 cents. Great removal spell right here. Nature's Lore. You search your library for a forest card, put that onto the battlefield, shuffle your library for 2 mana. Great stuff right here. And what's great about it not specifying it to be a basic land or non-basic, it just says forest. We can grab some great budget cards with this. We don't really have to buy shock lands or try lands. It can be something very cheap and affordable. Rishkar's Expertise. Love this one. Used to be a $6 card. For 6 mana, we draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures we control. This is really good because it doesn't target, so if our opponents have any kind of trickery there, or if we have like Lightning Greaves on whatever our biggest creature is, we can still use this and not target them, but get access to drawing those cards. And then we can cast a spell with mana value 5 or less from our hand without paying its mana cost. And remember, whenever we have a price reduction, or I should say a mana reduction from our cards, we're able to do more during that turn. It can get pretty crazy. So anytime we're able to cast free spells, we should really want to take advantage of that. Tireless Provisioner. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we get to create a food token or a treasure token. I don't think I've ever created a food token. I think I've always gone for the treasure token, but I'm glad it gives us that option, so if you are going for a food token themed deck, that's available for you. It's going for $1 right now. I think typically this was around the $2 to $3 range, so there's some savings for you. The last green card is Viridian Revel. I'm really surprised to see this at $1.23. There was some really big hype for it at the beginning of this year or the middle of this year, and it was going for around $4 to $5, and I was very disappointed because it's a really good card, especially with treasures being as popular as they are. Because it says, whenever an artifact is put into an opponent's graveyard from the battlefield, you may draw a card. So whenever they sacrifice their treasure token, it hits the graveyard and then it's exiled immediately. So we're able to draw off of Viridian Revel, now going for $1. Great stuff right here. For the multicolor, we have Jorah, Weatherlight Captain, going for 55 cents. Great stuff because it was around, I'd say $2 to $4. And since the reprint from Brothers War, now we're seeing a great price right now. If you are casting historic spells in red or blue, you're going to love this one. We get to draw cards from casting artifacts, legendaries, or sagas. It's also a 3/3 and it could be your commander. So if you love the draw cards, this is probably a great commander for you. Supreme Verdict. This used to be a $5 card, now going for $2.85. It's a board wipe that cannot be countered, and it cost 4 mana. Thousand Year Storm. I was very surprised to see it at this price. For 6 mana, whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we copy it for each other instant and sorcery we've cast before it this turn. And you may choose new targets for the copy. Pretty sure this was a $10 card. Seen a reprint this year, now going for $182. If you're looking for this one, now would be a great time to pick it up. The last multicolored card, we have Vindicate. Pretty sure this was a $5 card. We have a removal spell for 1 white/black. It's a sorcery. Destroy target permanent. Now, I know it says sorcery, but hear me out. We get to destroy any permanent for just 3 mana. I really like this one. Moving on to the colorless section, we have Arcane Signet going for 73 cents. I probably say this every time I see this card. This used to be a $15 mana rock, and I'm not joking. They have been reprinting this a bunch, so definitely pick this one up if you're needing it. Blade of Selves. This used to be a $20 card. The equipped creature has Myriad, so whenever it attacks, for each opponent other than the defending player, we're going to create a token that's a copy of the creature that's tapped and attacking that player or planeswalker they control. And then we have to exile those tokens at the end of combat. Love this one for my Gonti deck. Chromatic Lantern, $3.90. This used to be a $10 to $15 card. It really helps you just not care what lands you're tapping because now they all have tap to add 1 mana of any color, and this is also a mana rock that says tap to add 1 of any color for just 3 mana. If you don't like caring about what lands you're tapping, this is going to be the one for you. Howling Mine, less than $1, by 3 cents, but hear me out. This was a $4 card for 2 mana. It's an artifact that at the beginning of your draw step, each player gets to draw a card if this is untapped. If you love to draw cards, you probably know this one. Seeing it at this price is very, very nice. Inspiring Statuary. What's crazy is this was a $6 card now going for 30 cents, so if you have a lot of non-artifact spells, we now have Improvise if we have this on the battlefield, so we can start paying for those whenever we tap our artifacts. They pay for 1 colorless mana, and this is just a really sweet card, seen a reprint in 2022. Now would be a great time to pick this up for a little more than a quarter. Mindstone for 24 cents. For 2 mana, we can tap it to add a colorless, or pay 1 and tap it, sacrifice it, and draw a card. This is a great mana rock to add to your deck if you're needing it. There's also Mind's Eye. A lot of people do not like this one. I don't really have an opinion over it. Probably tend towards the I like it more than dislike it. So for 5 mana, whenever an opponent draws a card, you may pay 1 mana, and if you do, you get to draw a card. The argument is that it's really bad because in order to draw a card, you have to pay 6 mana. So 5 for this card, plus the 1 whenever an opponent draws a card. I don't know, I think that an opponent really wouldn't think much of this card because, yes, we do have to pay 6 mana to draw 1 card. So why are they going to spend mana to remove it? Maybe they don't value it as well as we do. Something to think about. Mirage Mirror. Love this one because I love to copy stuff. So for 3 mana, we have an artifact that says you can pay 2 mana, and this becomes a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land until end of turn, and it doesn't specify whose artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. So it can be an opponent's or our stuff. Mystic Forge used to be a $6 card. We can look at the top card of our library at any time, which is an okay thing. But what's even better is that you can cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your library. Really powerful stuff for just 4 mana. And if there's a land on top or something we don't really care for, we can tap this, pay 1 life, and exile the top card of our library. Soul Ring. So for $1, we can pay 1 to get 2 mana. Really good stuff here. Typically around the $2 to $3 range. It depends on when the commander decks are being printed and if this is in them, which is very typical to see them in. So the more reprints we get of this, we're going to tend to see a lower price. The last card I want to mention is Wurmcoil Engine. This is a $20 card typically, now going for $12.67. It is a 6/6 4/6. It has Death Touch and Lifelink. When this dies, we're going to create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Worm artifact creature token with Death Touch and 1 with Lifelink. This is a really sweet card. And if you're needing it for your decks, we're now seeing a $7 price drop for this one, so definitely one to consider. Thank you all so much for watching. If you'd like any of these cards, you can use the link down below, and when you purchase them through that link, you help support the channel at no additional cost to you, so thank you very much. And thank you to the members who help support this show. You can also become a member for 99 cents a month by hitting that join button down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.